Hey there, I'm Keith Barry at Consumer Reports, and we have just purchased a Toyota Prius Prime XSE. It's brand new. It just has a couple hundred miles on it. We're just breaking it in before we put it through our full testing protocol here. But I know you're anxious to learn more about this car, so we're going to do an early review and share our first thoughts on it. First of all, Toyota Prius, we all know what that means, but Prius Prime. Prime is Toyota's word for a plug-in hybrid. Means that you basically have, just like any other hybrid, you've got a gas engine up front, you've got batteries, you've got an electric motor and regenerative brakes. They're all working together in order to make the most efficient powertrain possible. But with the Prime, with a plug-in hybrid, if you see in the back there, there's another little flap door on the back. You can plug it in and get an all-electric range before the gas engine eventually starts to kick in. In this case, in the XSE, you have up to 40 miles of all-electric range according to Toyota. That's huge. That's one of the biggest all-electric ranges you can get. The Prius Prime had a total redesign for 2024, and Toyota says it's supposed to be sleeker, it's supposed to be a little more aggressive of a look, and by making it a little sleeker, Toyota took the roofline down by about 2 inches. They took out about a mini fridge's worth of cargo space in the back, and you have these sleek pillars in the front, which really kind of get in the way of your visibility when you're driving, at least for me. Now, we are going to do all sorts of measurements, and we're going to have our whole team of drivers and folks get in this car and tell us how they feel about it. But I feel cramped and hemmed in this car, and I never felt that way in the Prius before. So I do feel like that design is a little bit of a step backward. Now, one update that nobody's going to argue with is that the Prius got more power for 2024. In the case of the Prius Prime, it has a combined 220 horsepower. Toyota says that's good for a 0 to 60 time of 6.6 seconds. That's like 20 years ago, that's sports car territory. And just from driving it around, I can say it's definitely noticeable that the car has a lot more pep in its step. There's also a difference in the Prius Prime because it has 3 different modes. It has an all-electric mode, it has a mode where it stays mostly on electric but kicks in the gas engine when necessary, or it has a mode where it just switches between electric, hybrid, gas on its own and makes that decision. Another thing we can say is that when you're wringing all the power out of this engine, it does make a lot of noise. And combined with the road noise that you get in the car, that was kind of a first impression we got when we rented one from Toyota, and we have a similar feeling about this one so far. Now, this XSE trim that we got has a lot of features. I mean, this is a very well-equipped vehicle. It has the upgraded, larger infotainment screen, and there are a ton of advanced driver assistance systems as well. You'll see here that there is a driver monitoring feature that can warn you if you're not looking at the road, if you're using lane centering or adaptive cruise control and you're kind of vegging out. It'll tell you, hey, look back at the road, and it has a bunch of different warnings. It'll say, sit up. It'll say, keep your eyes on the road, and we're definitely going to put that to the test. There are some issues with the interior. I think, and some of my colleagues agree with me, that you have a lot of steering wheel controls here. You can differentiate them by touch, but there are a lot. And that screen in front of me is a little bit cluttered in terms of trying to find information. There's a lot of information in this car. It feels very video game. It feels very kind of nerdy. Lots of things that you can tweak and change yourself, and that's cool. But you do have to get used to it when you're driving the car. Now, go to any major city and you'll see a lot of Priuses doing taxi duty. And in the older Priuses, that was great because they actually had decent legroom. They had a decent space in the back. But the back seat, this new sloped roofline here is really cutting into headroom. I'm only about 5'10", and I can have trouble sitting in the back here. Now, as I've mentioned, we are going to put this Prius Prime XSE, like every vehicle we buy here to test at Consumer Reports, through more than 50 tests at our track here in Connecticut. We're going to put it through a braking test, acceleration, an avoidance maneuver to see how well it performs in terms of price, in terms of electrification. It's kind of this interesting in-between car, and it starts at a little over $32,000. The one that we purchased, which is very well equipped, well, we paid $39,004 for it. But here's the thing about a plug-in hybrid. Because the batteries and the whole drivetrain of a plug-in hybrid is a little heavier than a regular hybrid, they actually tend to get worse fuel economy than a hybrid once that electric range has run out. In the case of the Prius Prime, you only get 48 miles a gallon once that electric range is depleted. In general, it might be a better decision financially, and it might save you more on fuel to stick with a regular Prius. Head to consumerreports.org to learn more about plug-in hybrids, EVs, and the Prius Prime once we finish testing it.